And now there's talk that Gerrard might go, and now there's talk that Pochettino might come in. Pure speculation, says a source at Villa to me this morning. You can name any top out-of-work manager and link him with any under-pressure manager, and then you've got some kind of a story. It's pure speculation. But this is gathering pace, Simon, when you look at it more closely. We know these two have big ambitions for Aston Villa. We know they're prepared to spend a lot of money. Super wealthy Edens and super wealthy Sawiris.
They haven't spent that much, you know. I mean, Graham keeps advancing this point that Gerrard's under pressure because he spent a lot of money, and I'm not entirely sure that's right. Because I don't think he has spent inordinate amounts of money. Don't forget they sold Jack Grealish, which subsidised a lot of transfers. So I'm not entirely sure that if we were to go to our favourite thing, the net spend column, that Villa are actually pulling up as many trees as you'd have us believe.
But they've got big ambitions to do something in Europe.
But that's one of the reasons why I stood out of the way when we got promoted in the Premier League and never did an interview with the media, because what you do is you get carried away with the emotion. We heard Marinakis talk about big things for Nottingham Forest and they're going to win pots and pans. It's much more difficult to do than say.
But some of them can't help themselves. They want to talk.
And that's fine. And
Edens never speaks. Neither does Sawiris, but they wanted to.
But they did then, because they get caught up with the emotion. And sometimes you get to say things in leisure and repent, or in haste and repent in leisure. Look, there's no doubt Aston Villa are a big football club, and they happen to be a football club that I have a great deal of admiration for and respect for.
So what's this all about then?
I suspect that the Gerrard train, because of the name, because of the association, runs aground much quicker because of the perception of expectation that surrounds him. He's been there for a year. I always thought it was a difficult job for him to take on, and one fraught with risk, because I do believe that his owners will be ambitious. I do believe the size of that football club will compel them to be ambitious. And so with that in mind, it puts Gerrard into focus. I do believe that Gerrard was at times held up and supported by a very capable coaching operation. And you'll make the case that one of them has disappeared into QPR and look how well they're doing. Moments in time. Let's see how they do at the end of the season at Queen's Park Rangers for Michael Beale. But we move into this.
Mick Beale linked with Wolves now.
And that's fine. And I'm sure QPR's reward will be to keep their manager, because he'll know the loyalty side of things is important, and developing a managerial reputation will be staying where someone gave you an opportunity. But the point is Gerrard and Pochettino, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, and I've always maintained the viewpoint that he will have a difficult and bumpy ride there, and he's in the middle of a bumpy time. And Pochettino's out of work, and one of the things that we always suggest is, okay, everyone shouts somebody out, who are you going to bring in? I mentioned Pochettino because it was a name that was around and about and perhaps might fit the bill of profile. But he comes with his own challenges. He comes with the dilemma that he's still going to have to work within a framework of what Villa are, as opposed to what they might want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge admirer of his, but I do believe that if Gerrard doesn't change where it's going, and quickly, and leading up to the World Cup, then he'll find himself in a very difficult position on Kerry Street.
You see, this in the Telegraph this morning, this is the combined might of Matt Law, Sam Wallace and Jason Burr. Oh, yeah. And they're talking about Pochettino. Pochettino resuming his coaching career, given that he spent his past 6 years in management, Tottenham and Paris Saint-Germain. He's worked with some of the biggest stars in the world. That will not stop Villa trying to move heaven and earth to tempt him, with the timing of Gerrard's dismissal also likely to be impacted by the need to line up a replacement.
Wow, that's insightful.
Well, the bottom line is this.
What's that, stating the bleeding obvious? Well, we know that Pochettino's got a record of working with big players. We know that in order to find someone that's available is always a challenging point of view.
Yeah, but how quick could the transition be, Simon? If Gerrard was to go, and Stephen, we hate talking about you in a way that we're doing, but if he was to go like that, the transition to bring in Pochettino would need to be as instantaneous.
Depends how much money the incoming manager thinks he's entitled to be paid. And so with that in mind, if they're prepared to match the expectations of the manager, then there's no reason. Pochettino is not bigger than Aston Villa. He's not better than Aston Villa.
Well, he wouldn't suggest he is.
Well, there might be a school of thought that suggests he is, and there might be a school of thought that suggests that Aston Villa are the lucky ones.
Yeah, but we get back to the square root of goals, so we just need them to pay for the best. And they pay the biggest for the best.
Well, we'll see, because Pochettino has worked for PSG, so he comes now with a slightly distorted worldview of what he should and shouldn't get paid. It's one thing working for Daniel Levy, and building a team after coming out of Southampton and going through the gears and landing at Tottenham and getting a good squad of players to be better and producing a decent Tottenham side, and then going off and working for one of the football clubs that Jurgen Klopp says has no barriers and doesn't have to stop at anything, and the prerequisite salary. Now you're going to come to Villa, and we're going to advance the case on behalf of others that we don't know would have this viewpoint, that they're going to pay a manager £10 or £15 million a year, because that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Now, in the great scheme of things, 10 or 15 million pounds a year for a manager, if you're going to pay a player that, you should pay a manager that, because the managers are actually the captain, your champions. Whether Pochettino can do anything different, he's a more experienced manager than Steven Gerrard, so he'll tick that box and he'll defeat that argument that I have. But I'm not. Look, I can see if we've got Pochettino as he was when he came out of Southampton, right, without any of the baggage that's gone since then, and he's ready and hungry and motivated and hasn't got polluted and corrupted by reading his own resume.
What baggage has he got?
Well, life changes you, doesn't it? And the experiences you have. Once upon a time, you're very motivated and very focused. And as time goes by, the more money that you get, the less you have that energy, the less you have that vitality. No, but that's my question. If you get the same Pochettino as you got coming out of Southampton to Tottenham, then Villa may be spending some good money on Pochettino if it is indeed Pochettino. This moment in time, Gerrard's in situ.
I think you get a super hungry, keen to impress, keen to.
You can't possibly speak to that.
To win Pochettino.
You can't possibly speak to that. You don't know that. And the fact of the matter is, somebody that's been, one of the things that money does is takes away the edge. It does in everybody, and sometimes you can maintain it longer.
Straight. It hasn't taken your edge away.
Because I lost a lot of money, and with that in mind, you either develop a resilience and go, right, I'm not having that. I'm going to bounce back, and I'm going to push back, and I'm going to actually prove a few people wrong. Or some people go under. We're all different characters. Other people, it takes the edge off. Look at footballers. Look at their lifestyle. Sometimes we cannot fathom why Dele Alli would have gone off the reservation. We cannot fathom why David Bentley would want to retire at 28, 29 years of age.
Agreed.
Because it takes away certain things.
But
now,
Pochettino is no easy street.
But we don't know that because the moment he got into PSG, he was looking to get out of the door because it didn't suit him. And sometimes what happens with managers is they believe that they're more important than they actually are. They believe their own hype. They think that they're Churchillian in their approach. And half the time, it's the emperor's new clothes. Now, I'm not saying that he would be in that case. I'm questioning it because it shouldn't just be a given and a gimme from the media, because that's lazy. We don't know if he's lost his motivation. We don't know if he's got that bit between his teeth. We don't know if the undoubted riches, the 15 or 20 million quid he'll have been paid to bugger off from PSG, has taken away the edge. We don't know that. But if he's like the guy that came out of Southampton, if he gets to manage Aston Villa, you know what? He's bloody lucky, because it's a big Premier League football club that's waiting to happen. OK, well, Steven Gerrard's got another attempt to get 3 points on the board for Aston Villa when they play Fulham this week. And, of course, a hugely important match is that. And that's on Thursday night, is it not? Yes, it is.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.